Guys, Superman is back on the big screen this week, and I have invited my good friend, Uncle Rich, to come to the movies with me tonight. We are actually going to the first showing of the movie in our local city, and we're going to talk about Superman before we go. Then we're going to go and see the new movie, Superman Legacy, and then we're going to come back right here and give a review. So if you're interested in what we think about Superman, stay with us, because that's what we're talking about today. Uncle Rich, you know I love Superman.
Yes, I'm very aware you love Superman.
If you look behind me, you probably can't see it because there's not a lot of lights on it, but on that little shelf up there, I've got Superman figurines, I've got Batman figurines, I've been a DC guy forever. Mm-hmm. I mean, Marvel is fun, but Marvel's kid stuff, right? DC is for adults.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I'm a DC guy. So one of the things I wanted to talk about before we go to the movie, I want to talk about, this movie's called Superman Legacy. I want to talk about the actual legacy of Superman films that have been out. And when it comes to Superman, I do own comic books. I have an entire comic book collection in my house. I bought every comic book off the stand the year Superman died. I bought not only the Death of Superman comics, but there was the Funeral for a Friend, and then there was the Return of Superman. It lasted over a year, and there was a new comic book that came out every week. I bought it, put it in cellophane, still have it in a metal box sitting in my house, and I one day look forward to giving it to my son if I deem him worthy.
That's very important. He must be worthy. Yeah.
So, Uncle Rich, I want to talk to you about the old Superman movies. Like I said, we're going to talk about the legacy of the Superman movies, kind of get your thoughts. And I know, like, you're not as huge of a fan as I am, so maybe I'll have some things to bring to your memory. But I'm also going to put you and the audience through a Superman quiz. And this is all pre-movie.
Do I have to pass this quiz in order to go to the movie?
No, but you do have to pass for me to pay for it. I'm buying the tickets and the popcorn tonight. All right, so of the Superman, I'm going to bring it up on the screen here. I have this ready. Of the Supermen who have played Superman, this is all of them except the new guy. Mm-hmm. Corenswet, I think is how you say his name, his last name.
Okay.
And then there's also one that's not on this poster, and that is Kirk Alyn. Kirk Alyn was the first guy to portray Superman back in the serials, like in the black and white days.
Gotcha. After
him, it was George Reeves. George Reeves is the farthest one to the left. And then you've got, in the middle of that poster, you've got Christopher Reeve. A lot of people say Reeves, but they're actually George Reeves and Christopher Reeve, and they're not related. Very similar last names, but there is an S on one and not on the other. And then immediately to if you're looking at the screen, to the left of Christopher Reeve, you have Henry Cavill. Mm-hmm. To the right, you have Tyler Hoechlin. He played first in the Supergirl TV show on the CW and then became the Superman and Lois version of Superman. Going back to the left, behind Henry Cavill, you have Brandon Routh. He played in the Superman Returns, but then he also came into the CW and played Superman in that series as well. So he's played Superman not only in a movie, but he's also played it in a TV version as well. On the other side, you have Tyler Hoechlin. Behind him, you've got Tom Welling. Tom Welling played in Smallville, only donned the suit once because that was two rules they had for Smallville. No flights, no tights.
It was more about Clark Kent than it was.
Yeah, it was about him being a boy. So the rule when they were writing, they said no flights, no tights. So he couldn't fly, and he could, which he did during the show. But it was like, you're not supposed to fly. Well, he did. And then at the very end, the very last scene of the very last episode is him doing the Superman pull, which I did earlier, looking awesome. All right. So then behind him is Dean Cain, who is opposite George Reeves on this poster. So out of those Supermen that you're watching, which one would you say you're most familiar with their movies?
Oh, that'd be Henry Cavill.
Okay, so you're more of a modern Man of Steel, Batman v Superman, Justice League Superman character. Well, I have thoughts about all of them.
I'm sure you do.
I'm not going to spend our time talking about everything. I want to talk about the best and worst. Okay, the best and worst of some of these. And I'll ask you, since again you're my guest, and I'm very grateful to have you back on the show. By the way, it's been a while, and a lot of people ask about you.
Really?
When's the next time you're going to have Uncle Rich? In fact, I'm out of town for the next 2 weeks, and I'm not having the live show. And they said, you should let Uncle Rich do the live show. I don't trust Uncle Rich to do the live show. That's not true. I do trust him. But I was like, oh, man.
Well,
Uncle Rich going to be...
Believe me, Bubba, if you'd have asked me, I had to say no because I got so much on my plate. I got a garden coming in. We're processing and constantly harvesting, and I'm teaching Sunday school and everything else going on. I wouldn't have had time to do this. I don't know how you find time to do it.
Hey, speaking of that, shameless plug, if you don't know this, Uncle Rich has a TikTok channel, Crystal River Farms, where he gives tutorials on farming. And I watched one the other day where you were talking about how to keep the sun off of your crops to keep them
shade cloth.
Shade cloth, which is really cool. So if you're interested in farming and you're looking for somebody to help you give some tips, check out Crystal River Farms on TikTok. Shameless plug. Unshamed.
The tagline is small scale homesteading to the glory of God. I like Cavill. Then I'd probably give it to Dean Cain.
Okay.
Then I'd probably go Brandon Routh. Because Brandon Routh, all he basically did, if I understand correctly, what he was trying to do was basically be Christopher Reeves.
He did. He did a very good impression.
And ironically, because I don't really like Christopher Reeves' portrayal,
Shame.
I like Ralph's better, even though he's trying to pretend to be Christopher Reeves. He just did it better than Christopher Reeves to me.
You hurt me.
I'm sorry. I've tried to watch the movies. I've tried to get on board with Christopher Reeve, and I just can't do it. There's something about him. I don't like him. It's just one of those, you don't like an actor, you don't like an actor.
I got it.
So Reeves would bring up the rear for me, and then Welling, because he never really played Superman. He was just Clark.
Okay.
So, and I'm sure Tyler Hoechlin and George Reeves was fine, but I've never seen him.
George Reeves was from a different era. It's hard to compare him. I mean, he literally, the way he flew was there'd be like a trampoline in a window, and he would jump on the trampoline and jump out the window, and he was just jumping onto like a pad.
Right, and it was that 40s, 50s?
40s, 50s, yeah.
You know, where it's talking like this, and I am going to go and save the day. You know, it's that kind of overacting kind of stuff.
Uncle Rich just showing off his cool voice.
I'm just saying, so I've seen clips, and it's that 1940s, 50s kind of acting.
I got you.
But that was what played back in the day.
I do want to do. We're gonna do the quiz in a minute, but let me do mine real quick. All right, starting at the top, I put Chris Reeve at the top. Obviously, you knew I would.
Yep.
Very quickly though, I love Dean Cain.
Right.
The thing about Dean Cain that came along like in my teenage years, and it was just an amazing show. It was directed by Joy Levine, who was a lady director, and so she directed it almost like it was a soap opera. So It was very much developing the relationship between Lois and Clark. That's what it was called, Lois and Clark: The New Adventures of Superman. They were going to call it originally it was supposed to be called, I think, something like the Lois Lane Chronicles or something, because it was supposed to be about her mainly, and Superman was going to be almost like a background character to her life. But it ended up, if you're going to,
as I remember watching it, Superman, their relationship was the forefront. Him being Superman was kind of back here.
Yeah, she was in love with Superman. He was in love with her. And this is, again, why I just say, just tell her, dude. I mean, if you know, I don't want her to love me for my powers. Dude, there's a lot dumber reasons to love somebody than that they can move a planet. That's like, let her love you.
And if you're trying to win her over with your all shucks, boyish, it ain't working, buddy.
And, this is just, Okay, so Christopher Reeve, then Dean Cain. I really like Henry Cavill. I don't like the movies as much. I think they were trying too hard to be Marvel, and they rushed. I think they rushed. So, but I like Cavill. I wish he was doing the movie we're going to see tonight. Right. And again, we haven't seen Corenswet, so we can't give any idea for him. The others, that's my top three. So I say Christopher Reeve, Dean Cain, Henry Cavill. And then the others, I would say each one I like for a different reason. I really like Tyler Hoechlin. He is a good actor, and he played a good part, and it was Superman as a father. Right. That's distinct and makes it different.
Right.
Of course, George Reeves is back in the old days, campy and different. Brandon Routh never got a chance to be his own person because he was trying to redo the Christopher Reeves version, and so it's hard to put him in a category because he wasn't being himself, I don't think. Even though he does have the coolest shot, the Superman, the guy shooting him
in the eyeball, yes,
and he looks down, and he looks back up. That was cool.
Yes,
that was cool. Cool scene. And Tom Welling again never really played Superman. He always played Superboy in one sense. So it's hard to put him in a category. But he's still a great guy, great actor, and so that's, I can just give you my top three. All right. Some trivia.
Oh boy.
Marlon Brando was in the first Superman movie, but he was only on air for 10 minutes. How much do you think he made for 10 minutes of screen time? And this is just a guess. How much do you think he made for 10 minutes of screen time?
$500,000. I don't know. It's Marlon Brando. He probably got paid.
This was in 78.
Okay,
Superman 78. He made $3.7 million.
I was way off.
For 10,
I thought I was shooting high for
10
78.
minutes of
Never
screen
mind.
time. And this is another thing. This is not on my list here, but he did not memorize any of his lines. He's literally reading. There's a part where he's supposed to be looking at the baby in the super, flight space thing. He's looking literally at
his lines.
A cue card. He didn't even remember. $3.7 million. I'm not going to be memorizing anything. I'm going to show up and be the Godfather, and you can take it or leave it.
You can act like a man. What's the matter with you?
Richard Pryor plays in Superman 3. Have you seen it?
I have not seen Superman.
Okay,
3.
so
I heard they stole
little piece of trivia. He got to be in Superman 3 because he was on a Tonight. I think it was the Tonight Show, but it might have been another one. Might have been a different show. But he was on a show, and he said he liked Superman. One of the writers heard him say it and wrote him into Superman 3, which became ridiculous. Superman 3 is basically a Richard Pryor comedy with Superman in the background. So
that's hilarious.
All right. Last but not least and then we're going to ask you the questions. These are just some trivia things.
Okay.
Last but not least, Superman Returns, which did come out in 2006. That's Brandon Routh, is supposed to be a continuation of Superman 2.
Okay.
And basically ignored Superman 3 and 4. So it's basically like those movies did not exist.
Hi, my name's Justin Johnson.
And I'm Josiah Stowe.
And we are Dominion Wealth Strategists. We are created to put money in the hands of those that are sitting in the pews.
From budgeting to estate planning, savings accounts, retirement planning, life insurance, and a heck of a lot more here at Dominion.
That means that you are leaving an inheritance that passes multiple generations because that is the legacy. It's part of our mission.
All of Christ for all of life.
And all of finance for Christendom.
Fellowship, faith, and a good cup of coffee. The gospel shines brightest when shared over stories, prayers, and a cup of our locally roasted coffee. Squirrelly Joe's Coffee, brewing conversations that matter. Share his word, sip his grace. Visit squirrellyjoes.com and order coffee to the glory of God.
Now I'm going to add our quiz question. So if you're playing at home, I'm going to give Richard a chance to answer. I'm going to give you all a chance to answer before I give the answer.
Okay.
Okay, so we have 5 trivia questions about the Man of Steel. Number 1, what is Superman's Kryptonian name?
Kal-El.
Okay, you're going to give him a chance next
I'm
time.
sorry.
You got to give him
My
a chance. Tell me if you know it or not.
Okay, gotcha.
Before you jump right out. The name is Kal-El. Okay, a secondary question.
That's a gimme, Bubba.
What actor named his child Kal-El? At least one. I know of one actor who named his child Kal-El.
Gonna have to punt on that one. Never. I hadn't heard that one.
Nicolas Cage.
Oh, well.
Yeah, he is a huge Superman fan. He wanted to play.
He got snubbed, yeah.
There's actually pictures of him wanting to play Superman.
I was watching those the other day.
Yep. And he made it into the Flash movie.
Right, he has a little 13-second cameo.
Yeah.
It's all CGI,
George
but he's
Reeves
on
is
it.
in there. Christopher Reeve is in there. All those. Yep. All right. In which of the films, you won't know this one, but we'll see if anybody at home knows it. In which of the films did Superman fight an evil version of himself? Superman fights an evil version of himself, and it's actually Clark Kent. It's one of the most famous scenes in all of his films, is that fight, and it's in the worst one. Well, there's debate.
I'm
about
saying it's got to be 4. I
it's
guess
3.
It's
It's
3.
3. It's the Richard Pryor version.
Okay.
Richard Pryor gives him kryptonite that he had manufactured. They tried to recreate kryptonite, and they didn't know one of the elements, so he mixed it with a tar instead of like didn't have the elements. They just put tar in it.
This will work.
Yeah. Well, it ended up, instead of killing Superman like kryptonite usually does, it turned Superman into a lush. He became a drunk, and he went crazy. And he hit on Lana Lang really like you're a very attractive woman, Miss Lang. Like you can imagine Christopher Reeve just being the most swarmy, dirty dude, in a Superman sitting with his leg crossed, looking at her like, you're a very attractive woman, Miss Lane. That's
what I may have been thinking about, because I hadn't seen the third one, so I probably hadn't seen the scene. I might have been thinking about the the cartoon series where Superman went evil for a while.
Yeah. And there's a Smallville. There's one of those too.
So that's probably what I'm thinking about. Okay.
All right, number 3. What newspaper does Clark Kent work for?
I'll give it a second because that's kind of a gimme.
All right. Is it a gimme though? Does it? I mean, I think it's a gimme, but not everybody. Okay, what is it?
Daily Planet.
The Daily Planet.
Yes.
All right. In the movie Superman 1978.
Okay.
What is Lex Luthor's motivation in the movie? What is he trying to accomplish? And don't say kill Superman because that's a byproduct of it, but that's not his main motivation.
Yeah, I was going to say kill Superman, but I have no idea.
Somebody in the comments, what was Luthor's main motivation? The whole movie is based on Lex Luthor's land scheme. He wants to send a missile into the San Andreas Fault so that California will fall off into the ocean and he will own all of the land on the new West Coast. It is the dumbest plot. It is the dumbest idea that he explains it. He goes, I'm going to send a missile into the San Andreas Fault. California's going to fall off into the ocean. Like, that's what's going to happen.
Right.
And because of that, he had bought all of the land on the east side of the San Andreas Fault so that he could have his own, and it was like Lex Harbor, Casa de Lex, and then there was Otisburg. Otisburg.
So when you tell me that, and I think about the great Gene Hackman.
Gene Hackman was awesome.
Signed off on playing a role where
so
that's
awesome.
the motivation.
Okay, he was great. Gene Hackman is my favorite Lex Luthor, even though every one of his schemes absolutely ridiculous, especially Superman 4. I'm going to take a lock of Superman's hair and create a clone by throwing a nuclear missile into the sun. Because, of course.
I've never seen the movie, but now I might want to watch it just from that.
For that he makes Nuclear Man, who is made of sunlight and looks like a guy who's playing an 80s hair band. He's got this big blonde mullet, and they call him Nuclear Man. But
should have called him Bon Jovi.
Well, Lex Luthor does not call him Nuclear Man. He calls him Nuclear Man. And if you can't tell the difference, it's because if you go back and watch the movie, he never says nuclear. He always says nuclear. And there's a difference. He goes,
there's a U in there
welcome home, Nuclear Man. I can't even say it right.
Nuclear.
That's
NEWKULAR. Nuclear.
Right, last question. And this one, I'm going to give you a multiple choice.
Okay.
The iconic Superman theme. Mm-hmm. This is the da 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 da, which I won't be able to play because of copyright.
Right.
That theme has stayed with Superman.
Mm-hmm.
It has been used in the movie. It's also been used in the Henry Cavill. When he came and punched the bad guy in the Justice League, they played as he was doing it. So like it's made it into the Henry Cavill series, and the one we're about to go see, it's in the preview of that. They played it as well, slower, but it's there. Who is the man who wrote that score? And he also scored Star Wars, and he scored Indiana Jones. So he literally wrote the soundtrack to our childhood.
Yes.
Do you want to guess, or do you want me to give you 4? I can give you 4.
Give me the 4 because names aren't coming to mind, but I got a feeling I'm going to know it when I hear it.
Okay. A, and don't answer until I give them all. A, Hans Zimmer. B, John Williams. C, Danny Elfman. And D, Alan Silvestri.
Give you all to a count of 5, and I'm going to make my guess. John Williams.
It is. John Williams. John Williams is a genius, and he literally wrote the soundtrack to my childhood. All right, guys, that brings us to the end of this portion of the video, but don't go away. Uncle Rich and I are going to see the new movie. I'm going dressed like this. And when we get back, we're going to give a short, spoiler-free review of Superman Legacy.
I'm glad you said that. Spoiler free.
Well, we might have a portion. We'll see how we feel if we want to give an extra, like, here's a few spoilers. But we'll definitely do a spoiler-free review. And if we say any spoilers, we'll give a spoiler alert. How about
Gotcha.
that? Also, I do want to say this before we go. I asked on Twitter and Facebook for people to ask questions about the movie. One of the things people want to ask, one of the things that came up several times was, is this movie good for children? So we're going to find that out. We're going to definitely tell you. That will be in the spoiler-free review. Also, they asked, is it woke? So we're going to find out about that and let you know. Also, they asked, did he play an effeminate, kind of not masculine version of Superman? Because that's kind of another one of the big things that people are saying, oh, he's not playing Superman the way he's intended, but he plays him sort of as, like, girly man type Superman. So those are three things we're definitely going to give in our review. We'll be able to give you the answers to those, and we will see you. It'll be a couple hours for us, but for you, it'll be like right now. All right, we're back. We just got back from AMC theaters watching the new Superman film, and I realized I was calling it Superman Legacy, but apparently they don't call it Superman Legacy. I think that was the name of it at some point, but none of the posters said that. So
Nope.
I want to apologize. That was an error. That was my mistake. So we just got back from seeing the new Superman movie with David Corenswet as Superman, and we have a lot of thoughts, and we're going to give a spoiler-free review covering three main areas. Number one, how is it as far as family friendly? We have a lot of thoughts about that. Second, we're going to address the issue of Superman being effeminate. Someone asked if Superman was girly or effeminate in this movie. And then last, we're going to address the question of, is this Superman woke? One of the major complaints I have heard is that this Superman is a woke Superman. And so we are going to address all three of those things on this episode of Your Calvinist. Well, it's not even an episode. It's just this video. It's a video on Your Calvinist channel. It's a movie review. So that's what we're going to be talking about. Now, after we get done dealing with those three things, we're going to do a spoiler review. But we will give a warning. We will say after this, there's going to be spoilers. So if you don't want to hear any spoilers, don't stay with us. But at that point, I'm going to invite everyone to hit that like button. Definitely. Before you leave. Before you leave. All right. So family friendly. Richard, thumbs up, thumbs down?
Thumb in the middle.
Okay. Thumb in the middle.
We'll do it in the middle because the biggest concern is just language.
That's right.
There were some GDs dropped. More than one, more than two, 3 or 4.
Was there? I only remember one. You're probably right, and I'm not. I only remember the one at the end.
No, they said.
Were there a couple times?
I think Lex drops a couple.
Okay.
And I think Lois might have dropped one, but there's 2 or 3.
Well, there's other curse words used. The most prolific curse word throughout, or the most common curse word throughout, is the S word, which was used like almost immediately and then kept coming up. And I was like, well, that's annoying.
Yes.
To have that, the constant use of curse words. And I wouldn't say constant. It wasn't like it wasn't like watching Def Jam, but it was, I mean, it's
present.
It was certainly had some bad words. So immediately, if bad language, if you have really young kids, if bad language is off the table, then you'll want to wait on this until you can watch it on VidAngel or get it from somewhere where it can cut out the bad words. But everything else, there was no gratuitous. There was one scene where they kissed pretty heavily.
Right, but I mean,
but there was no like gratuitous anything sexual or anything like that. There was no nudity.
Clothes stay on. Yeah. It's just...
so I just think it was unnecessary.
Right.
Using the bad language it just makes it less fun for families to have to worry about that with the kids, especially if that's a big deal.
As far as violence goes, it's no worse than we talked about us in the truck, like The Matrix.
Yeah,
it's no blood, guts, nothing like that. Just
it was very much cartoon style violence,
right,
and CGI violence.
Correct.
There's one scene in the movie, I'm not going to spoil it. There is one scene in the movie that surprised me because it was overtly violent, but it was only a second and you only see it in the shadows. But it was like one of those things where I didn't expect that to happen.
Yeah.
And maybe we'll go back to that in the spoiler section. But ultimately, if language is an issue, this movie does have language, and it seems unnecessary. That's the most frustrating thing. So that's the first thing people ask us about. Is it family friendly? I like your idea of putting the thumb in the middle. It really just depends on your threshold of bad language, because it's gonna have a bunch, and by a bunch I mean more than just one word.
Right.
It's some consistent stuff. The second thing is the question of, is Superman in this? Is he effeminate? Now I'm not quite sure what when the people were saying this. They were saying like he was sort of like not manly.
Right.
I'll let you give your initial thoughts, like what you were talking about in the truck, and then I'll give a few of my thoughts.
My definition of effeminate, I wouldn't say that.
Yeah.
He didn't come off as feminine in any way, shape, or form. But he didn't come off exceedingly masculine either. He's kind of middle of the road. So I wouldn't say he's effeminate or intentionally that way. Without using a spoiler, he's weak in some degree.
Yeah.
He's the weaker of the Supermans that I've ever seen. And you'll understand what I mean when you watch the movie. But that's not necessarily effeminate. That goes more to strength, I guess, physical strength. So, and some of the... Anyway, I won't say any more than that.
Well, I think honestly, James Gunn has mentioned that in a interview, that his desire was to make this Superman beatable or something. I don't know if that's the word he used, but basically to say that he said, a Superman that can't be beaten is not fun to write for. So he wanted a Superman that had some weakness to him, but I think it was overcorrected.
Correct.
That
yes.
So I think we can say that without spoiling. It just seems like the comparing him to other Supermen.
Right.
I mentioned this in the truck. If you compare strength and abilities, one of the highest level Supermen, I think, and this is just my opinion. You tell me. Those of you in the comments, love to hear your thoughts. But of the Supermen, I think of the highest level one. Is probably the Tyler Hoechlin version from Superman and Lois. He's just incredibly fast, incredibly strong. I mean, like he hears a gun go off and he can beat the bullet like from across town. I mean, that's exaggerating, but that's the kind of thing. Like the speed and strength of the Tyler Hoechlin Superman is so incredible. And then of course, every Superman is strong, but they're just sort of like different powers. And
having not seen Tyler Hoechlin, if I was comparing him to Cavill Superman, there's a night and day difference.
Sure.
Even in those.
And Christopher Reeves flew so fast he flew back in time.
Correct.
So yeah, it's certainly comparing him to other Supermen. Certainly, and I think again, this is stuff you're going to see in the trailer. You're going to see him bloody. You're going to see him beaten. That was a choice made by the filmmaker. I do wonder if they swung the pendulum too far. That would be my thought.
But, all right. But effeminate? Nah.
No, not effeminate.
Nah.
He did have a small neck. Now that may seem like a weird thing to mention, and people might say, "Why are you looking at his neck, Keith?" But like, here's what I mean by that. When Henry Cavill wanted to play Superman, he intentionally bulked up his body because he wanted to look like Superman. When Ben Affleck wanted to play Batman, he bulked up his body. And even somebody like Christian Bale, who's not physically imposing, he's not a huge figure, he became more muscular. If you remember Batman Begins, like at the beginning of the movie when he's down on those poles and he's doing like the one-hand push-up to get up and all that, his upper body was...
He's cut. He's
big.
Right.
If you look at David Corenswet, and you can see this in the trailer, you can see this on the poster, so it's not something that, this isn't a spoiler necessarily. His neck is small, and I know that's just like his genetics and the way he looks, but he looks smaller.
Right.
His suit is not, and I know we have our thoughts about the suit, but his suit is not form-fitting, and it doesn't seem to portray a strong masculine figure. It looks weaker, but then somebody might say, but his strength doesn't come from his muscles. His strength comes from his Kryptonian DNA. I get that. I don't disagree, but that's my thought.
But I can tell you this: if Superman was 150 pounds and 5'2" and still slinging everybody all over the place, you'd still be like, not really believable. And one thing I did notice about this when I'm thinking about it, Henry Cavill, Christian Bale, Batfleck, all those at some point had their shirt off. This dude never took his shirt off. You never got to see if old boy was cut or not.
And I have to mention this, and this is in the picture that we have on the screen. His hair is atrocious, and I know this sounds like now we're like, you know, people are gonna be like, why are you looking so hard at this dude? But I'm honestly, his hair. I found out recently, and this is no kidding, you can go find videos online. I found out recently that Christopher Reeve wore a wig during Superman, and that hurt my heart because I was like, I thought he was just this, you know, perfect looking person, but no, his hair, that swoop and everything, that was fake. It was an attachment that they attached to his head. And I'm like, okay, if you can do that in 1978 with Christopher Reeve, what is that? What is that? Look at that. His hair is terrible.
And that angle really don't give you the full thrust of how bad that hair is.
But having said all that, Corenswet has a fun attitude. I mean, there's times when he's joking around. I mean, we're not saying he's a bad actor. We're not saying he did a bad job. He's playing what's written.
Right. He's
not the writer.
He's acting the script out.
Yeah. So it just interesting choices all around. Right. Choice of his hair, the choice of his look. And I'm going to talk about his parents as well, but we'll leave that for later.
Right.
Because I thought that was my least favorite choice.
Right. Was
how they portrayed his parents. So if you want to hang around for that, that'll be in the spoiler review. But the last thing we were asked about was this woke? And I think that's a tremendously important question because we have seen a lot of wokeism make its way into many modern films where some movies become unwatchable because it's about the message. It's about getting the message across. And it doesn't matter that we're making a good movie. What matters is we're making a statement.
We have an agenda and we're going to force feed it to you. That's what movies end up doing nowadays.
And what people have connected this to is apparently James Gunn, who is the director, has said, this movie's about an immigrant who's not from here. And therefore, a lot of people read into that and they say, well, this movie is about immigration. Obviously, immigration is a huge issue right now in the United States. And so it seemed like going in that might be maybe what some people might say is going to be the driving force behind this movie, is it was going to be all about a sort of a forced immigration message.
Right.
I'll go first on this one. I saw a few things that could tip the hat in that direction, but I didn't see, from my perspective, again, I've only saw it once and we watched it 30 minutes ago.
Right.
I didn't see a message that was so overtly pushing an agenda that it took me out of the film.
Right.
And I'll let you talk and then we'll dive in a little deeper.
It's not blatantly obvious, okay? Had I not watched a couple of non-spoiler reviews from some political types who, one, showed where James Gunn talked about immigration, and one talked and saw Corenswet talking about truth, justice, but it wouldn't say the American way, which that never came up in.
It did. We talked about that before, but it didn't come up in the movie.
So that's just him talking about it because he doesn't really feel like the American way is the right way or whatever. If I never saw any of that, and then I watched this movie, I wouldn't feel like I saw anything woke. I'll put it that way. But because of the undertones that I saw beforehand, I'm looking for it, especially when y'all asked the question. There are some things that if you want to read into it, and you really got to read into it, it's there. I don't know how much I can say here without, because there's a particular thing we talked about in the truck, but I don't want to say too much and give something away.
Yeah.
But
there's a point where one particular line in the movie, and if you see it, there's one particular line in the movie that seems to sound like a particular political issue right now.
Correct.
Yeah.
And if you look hard enough.
And I'll just say it's regarding rights, the rights of non-citizens.
Yes.
Yeah.
Rights of non-citizens. that particular thing, you can really read into it. And then there's a couple other little comments that if somebody wants to push it, but if you go into it not knowing the political agenda of the director and even some of the actors and just watch the movie, you're not going to pick up on it. It's just, I don't really think so.
I don't think it pushed terribly pushed a political agenda, but I do think there was something else behind the movie that I want to talk about, and this is my critique of the movie, because we're giving a review, right? We answered the 3 questions. I think we gave a fair answer. We family friendly, it has some issues. Was it necessarily effeminate from Superman's side? No, but he seemed weak. And was it necessarily woke? There's a few things that could be read into it, but not overtly woke.
Right.
Here's the thing that I really take issue with, and this is not just Superman, but this is with a lot of modern movies. It just didn't tell a compelling story.
Right.
And that's my biggest issue. I love movies. You guys know I used to have movie posters that filled my studio. I took those out and I replaced it with these artificial movie posters because of copyright stuff.
Right.
But I'll give you an example. Recently, I went and I watched the new Karate Kid. There's a new Karate Kid movie that came out. You didn't even know it came out.
I didn't even, I wasn't aware.
It was Jackie Chan and Ralph Macchio play sort of like co-teachers to this new Daniel character. You know, his name is, I forget his name in the movie. They called him Stuffed Crust because he went to New York and asked for Stuffed Crust pizza. So that was his nickname through the whole movie. And it was a fun movie. I mean, I enjoyed it, but it did not compare at all to the storytelling of the original Karate Kid. The original Karate Kid did so much to develop the character, the relationship between the character and Miyagi, the relationship between Daniel and the bullies, the relationship between the bullies and their teacher. There was so much development in the old Karate Kid. And then you go to this movie and it's very underdeveloped. The characters are wooden, they're one-noted. The bad guy in the Karate Kid movie was just awful. Okay, by the way, spoiler alert for the new Karate Kid. I forgot to throw that out there. But I want to compare that now to this movie. The biggest issue I would have would not be wokeism. The biggest issue I would have would not even be the weakness of Superman, because again, I think they're just making a choice.
Right.
Even though I wouldn't go with that direction. I understand why they're making the choice. But I feel like it wasn't a compelling story. The original Superman had some ridiculous nonsense in it, man. It had Lex Luthor going to fly a missile into the San Andreas Fault to create a new West Coast. That's dumb. But if you watch the original Superman, 1978, it follows a 3-act beat that it's almost like a play. It's almost like there's a point where you could have an intermission and then the play would continue. Like there's this perfect first act, which is him going from Krypton to the Earth and then becoming Superman and going to the Fortress of Solitude. And that act ends with him flying across the screen. And the next thing you see is in Metropolis. And now it's the Metropolis act. And then there's the whole story of him being in Metropolis and learning about Lois Lane and Jimmy Olsen and learning how to be this new person and this new life and all of these things. And then the third act is the introduction of Luthor's plan and what he's got to do. Now he's got this huge issue that he has to face, this antagonist. And it culminates in what some would say is the most ridiculous ending. He flies back in time. Yes, that ending is not my favorite way to end that movie. But what it does is it brings the whole movie together and it tells one cohesive story. This movie seemed like it was all over the map.
Oh, yeah.
And there was I wasn't invested in the characters.
That's the that's the ultimate problem is with good storytelling. And I mean, the acting was fine.
Oh yeah. I mean, and again, you're looking, people will say, well, the CGI is so much better. And they didn't have CGI in 78, right?
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Well, but good storytelling gets you invested in the characters. So much so that you're even invested in the subplots of Lois and Superman, getting together and the tension between them, as well as the larger plot. With this, it was just like, and I'm not spoiling anything here. It's like you're just thrown in the middle of it.
That's right.
You're just thrown in the middle of it, and then you got to figure it out. And it's like nothing's developed, and even toward the end, because at the end it's got its climactic point and all that. Even then, I wasn't like, hurrah! I was just like, it's just like, okay, well, the movie's over.
Yeah,
it's take me back to when you told a story.
Yeah.
And developed some characters and developed a storyline and had some tension between the characters and you knew it, and it was building up to this point, and it's just I 100% agree with that. There's no story in this.
Yeah, it was a struggle. That part I feel like it's the biggest struggle is the story. So that concludes our spoiler-free review. So at this point, I am going to throw up the official Your Calvinist podcast spoiler alert. Before I do,
go ahead.
Before I do, if you like this video, hit the thumbs up button. If you didn't, hit the thumbs down button twice. Leave a comment. Tell me what you think about the movie, because if you don't watch the spoiler review, you won't hear me say these things. So I'm saying them now. Hit the subscribe button. Hit the thumbs up button. Do all the things we need you to do. It really helps out the channel. All right.
And if you continue from here, it's on you.
That's
Don't blame
right.
us.
That's right.
That's your fault.
Spoiler review starts now.
Well, okay, going to the back to the potential woke stuff.
Yeah.
Because we wanted to talk about that. One of the things that you could draw out of it is at one point Superman decides to turn himself in because he becomes public enemy number one. And when he gets himself turned in and submitted to the authorities, he says something to one of the guys arresting him. You didn't read me my rights. And that's when the guy said, well, you're an illegal alien and not a citizen of this country, therefore you have no rights.
That's right.
And so a government doesn't deem you, doesn't deem it necessary to give you any rights, and they usher him off to where they usher him off to, and put him in basically prison. So, and hand him over to Lex Luthor and his whole planet squad or something. I forget what he called it. But anyway, so you could take that and you could, with the political alignment we got now, where you got Trump and ICE going in and collecting all the illegal immigrants, and because they're in this country illegally, they have no rights. Therefore, they don't have to go through due process. We can put them on a plane, ship them home. If you wanted to read into that, it could be a stab from... it could go either way. James Gunn could be saying this is his stab at what Trump's doing, or James Gunn could be saying, well, if you're an illegal immigrant, the government doesn't have to give you any rights because you have none because you're not a citizen of this country. Off you go.
Yeah.
You could take it either way. I would guess, given Gunn's comments, more than likely he's leaning in the direction this is kind of a stab. And then there's another one at the end where he's talking to Lex Luthor and he says, I'm as human as you are, and I love like you do, and I go to get up, and I go to work, and I do everything, and I just put one foot in front of the other, and I make mistakes just like you, and hopefully one day you'll see that too. And again, we've had those conversations in the political realm of, well, all these illegal immigrants, they're human too, and they love too, and they put one foot, and they get up and go to work and do all these things, so we should just let it slide. So those two things, if you wanted to read into it, could be some jabs. But if you go into it having no idea,
context,
you wouldn't. You just sit there and say, "Well, okay, that makes sense."
Yeah.
So anyway,
I would say this was less political than Superman 4.
Right.
Superman 4 was written, was produced by Christopher Reeve. Did Superman 4 because he wanted to make a statement about nuclear war. And so the whole movie is about Superman ridding the Earth of nuclear weapons, and Lex Luthor creates a man out of the nuclear power who's called Nuclear Man, who fights Superman. So that movie was overly political because it was Christopher Reeve's pet project. He wanted to do a movie that spoke out against nukes, that spoke out against nuclear power. Or nuclear bombs, nuclear missiles. So, I mean, it's always been there. That part, that idea of making a political statement, that's kind of always been there. But I'll say this: there was a few things that really fell flat for me. I already talked about the story. I said that in the spoiler-free review, and I agree with you what you were saying. I think that's the parts people are going to say are woke.
Right.
Yeah. But there's another part that really bothered me, and that was the portrayal of his parents. In both sets of parents. Here's the thing that's really, again, this is a spoiler.
Oh, yeah.
They make Jor-El and Laura, who is his mother and father from Krypton, Jor-El and Laura are on a video, and they make them villains.
Yep.
They make them horrible. No other Superman movie has made them villainous. They have always, Jor-El has always been the beacon of sense and sensibility on Krypton. You know, he wants to send his son off the planet because he knows the planet is going to end, and he sacrifices himself because he could go, but he sends his son anyway. There's all these things that are part of the Marlon Brando Jor-El, are also part of the Russell Crowe Jor-El. Very selfless, very loving. You know, like this is part of what, you know, he sent his son for that reason. And there's obviously many people have made references to you know, Christian teaching, you know, on that God, you know, the Jor-El kind of representing God sending his son. I think that's an overstep, but that's people have made that connection.
And Bradley Cooper being
dude.
When he bought him, I'm like, that's who you chose?
And
Rocket Raccoon? Okay.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
Anyway.
So you got Bradley Cooper
Superman's
playing
dad.
Jor-El's dad on a video, and it was very poorly done.
Right.
But even worse, in my opinion, is the portrayal of Jonathan and Martha Kent, who have always been, in every version of Superman prior to this, have always been the sort of sage, down-to-earth, wise, but
simple folks.
Simple but wise.
Right.
Right? These people were simple but simple.
Yeah, they made them almost seem like they had
The mother was portrayed like she was...
Like she almost had a mental deficiency.
Yeah, and I thought they were going to say the dad had dementia.
Right,
because
he was
the way he was talking, he had a few wise words to say to Clark. But their home didn't look like a farm. Their home looked like a house in the suburbs.
Yeah,
I mean,
it was kind of a ranch style house, but they kind of just threw some fences up and threw a couple cows in the yard and called it a farm.
It was not. The mother, you know, sounded very unintelligent.
And they made sure they sounded as country as they could to make it seem like if you're from the down south or you're
you
the
just
country,
don't know anything.
You're just dumber than dirt. You know, when you're introduced to her, she calls Clark, and she's leaned over and yelling into the phone, "Clark, just want to call and check on you." And it's just
and it's that line, yeah.
And he calling the TV the box. Come on here and look. Come look at the box. You might want to see.
I'll give you a good example of why Dean Cain's parents, the ones who played in the Lois and Clark, they were the best as far as I'm concerned. Even though there's been great actors like Kevin Costner and Russell Crowe, my favorite was always the couple who played in that. And here's a funny episode moment. I watched every episode of Lois and Clark. I loved it so much. But there's an episode where Lois goes to Clark's hometown to visit his parents with him, and she said, I need to get a fax from the Daily Planet. And his mother says, a fax? And she goes, yes, a facsimile. You put a paper in one end, it comes out the other. It's very technical. And she goes, oh, I just wanted to make sure there was paper. And she turns around and she's got a fax machine. Again, fax machines, for those of you who are not as old as us, that was like before the internet. You could send emails like you sent faxes. But it was just funny because she was like, she didn't know what a fax was. No, she was saying, no, I need to put paper in my fax machine.
Yep.
So it kind of stepped up her, not only her like intellect, but also like showed her to be sort of sassy and smart and intelligent. I really think that was not a good part of this movie. I won't say too much more about it, but that took me out of it really hard. The way they seemed to portray the parents.
Yeah, I was very aggravated with that. And another one and this is more just fun and kind of a fun spoiler in the sense of serious conversation going on between Superman and Lois. And in the background, You have the Green Lantern. Like they're in the apartment
Fighting
building.
a giant
eyeball thing.
It was like an outer space alien, and Superman's like, oh, I don't even have to deal with it. They got that.
Because Lois references like, so were you out there helping them? He's like, no, I was looking for the dog. And they got it under control, and you just see lasers hitting the thing, and eventually it like starts leaking fluid, and it's in the background during a pretty heavy conversation. I'm like, what is going on here? This is just weird.
All right,
and
you made me think of something else, and we do got to draw to a close quickly because we was going a little longer than I thought. But I do have two other things, and I know you're gonna have a thought on this.
Okay.
One, the Jimmy Olsen character having that.
Oh my gosh.
Girl in love with him did not make sense at all. There was no context, nothing that made it make sense. The Jimmy Olsen love interest of the movie was so weird. And that kid's been in a lot of movies. He's been an actor since he was a kid. It was weird. It was just weird.
And the other thing about it is she's also dating Lex Luthor.
But she's in love with Jimmy. She wants
Olsen.
Jimmy Olsen. It's the most ridiculous part of the plot.
Yeah.
And
that came out of nowhere.
And the dog. I wanted to love Crypto so much, and I was hoping they would make Crypto like a really integral character. Like, and he was important at certain moments.
But he was almost like comic relief. It was So, I guess to draw it all together is to say, I didn't love it, and I wanted to. I mean, I wanted to love it. You were like the world's #1 Superman fan, and you have nothing but positive things to say about every Superman that's ever came out. You know.
And I go in and I just feel like
you went in with a positive attitude. I could tell by the look on your face when it was over. You're just like,
It wasn't
right.
It wasn't my favorite for sure.
Definitely wasn't my favorite. I'll say this: it's worth watching once, and watch with a friend or two, so that either during or after, you can poke fun at all the just really dumb elements.
I'm glad you said that because it reminded me of one last thing I want to mention. The chemistry between Lois and Clark was not there for me.
Oh no,
and that's like the biggest part. Superman loves Lois, but in this movie, like, it wasn't there, and she did not come off as a Pulitzer Prize winning reporter.
No. And that's part of the other problem is that in every other iteration of Superman, as far as the movies go, now even with Christopher Reeve and Henry Cavill and all that, the movie didn't start with them together.
Yeah,
that's the problem. They were already together. They've been together.
Yeah,
there was already established relationship. So there's no tension or build up to it.
Yeah,
they're already together. So yeah, that's again. Character development, and story matters.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
That's where you missed the boat.
And even though Star Wars could put text on a screen at the beginning and get away with it, this tried that.
Yes,
and it did not do it as well.
No,
it was certainly not Star Wars.
No.
All right, my friend. Uncle Rich, thank you for coming and going to the movie with me and giving our audience your thought. Thank you guys for hanging with us for the last hour talking about the old movies and this movie. I want to ask you to do one thing again, and that is if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do that. Obviously, I talk about theology. I talk about the Bible most of the time, but every once in a while I do a movie review. So I hope this review was helpful to you, at least if nothing else. I hope you got a kick out of hearing us talk about the things we love about Superman and the things we loved and didn't love about this movie. What did I love about this movie? Not a lot. I love that there's a new Superman out that I can go take apart. But other than that, I thought the robots were fun.
The robots were fun because, and they were snarky. And they were, funny.
Yeah.
If I had a conscience, I might care if the dog lived or dies.
yeah, exactly. That was fun.
That kind of stuff. So,
that was fun.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, check it out. Please leave me a comment, especially if you've seen the movie. Tell me where we were wrong. Tell me where we were right. Give us your thoughts. Do you think the movie was woke? Do you think he was effeminate? Do you think this movie is good for kids? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. And don't forget that if you like this, hit the thumbs up button. If you didn't, hit the thumbs down button twice. Share it with someone and join us next time. And we're out.